Hello, I'm Gabrielle Chana, Gail and I will be reading from portions of my novel, Silver Skies. The reason I'm reading this is because I want to let you know why this book is banned by the Jesuit order. So I'm going to be reading you some portions from it. This is from Silver Skies Part 2 of 2. And in this scene, Dor Benabakuk, my male lead, is talking with Franz Wilhelm, and this is the father of my female lead, who is a private investigator. And he's investigating for Dor because there has been an explosion at a federal building, and I patterned this after the Oklahoma City federal building bombing. My storyline is based on what really happened at that place, and I just changed some names but a lot of what I'm reading in here about the Nazi weapons law is not fiction. This was the research I did from the book, and this is not fiction. This is the evidence here is factual. Franz crushed his head into his hands and wept. I'm sick of the New World Order. I want to get out. Trees were sticks this time of year. Dor walked to a window and looked outside. Spring is coming. This response confused Franz. What? In the spring. I'll overcome them. I'll find the courage. Why spring? Dor shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. There's just something about spring. That's when I'll go to her. Well, spring is almost here. I hope so, but I didn't come to talk about Brianna. You've done a lot of research about the government. Can I see it? Dor brought out his research and explained that these were portions of his book. Here, Franz, take a look. Franz scanned over a manuscript. Senator Dodd had the German text of the 1938 Nazi weapons law and obtained the help of the Library of Congress to translate it to English on July 12, 1968. 4 months before, they signed into law the U.S. Gun Control Act of 1968. The late Senator Thomas J. Dodd also exposed himself to the Nazi weapons law when he worked as counsel at the Nuremberg war crimes trial. In the hearing record, page 489 of the Subcommittee to Investigate Juvenile Delinquency, is a letter from the law librarian of the United States Library of Congress dated July 12, 1968, to Senator Dodd. We are in closing, and in my novel, I put in brackets parts that I added in to make this text more understandable, but this was taken from actual written text. We are enclosing an English translation of the Nazi law on weapons dated March 18, 1938, translated by Dr. William Follet-Fricquet, and the Xerox copy of the original German 1938 weapons law text, which you supplied. Louis C. Coffin, Law Librarian. The unedited original. Here's what it actually said. We are enclosing herewith a translation of the Law on Weapons on March 18, 1938, prepared by Dr. William Follet-Fricquet of that division, as well as the Xerox copy of the original German text which you supplied. Louis C. Coffin, Law Librarian. Senator Dodd was the chief architect of the 1968 U.S. Gun Control Act. Franz's hand shook as he viewed the documents on the table. He turned to Dor. The 1968 U.S. Gun Control Act was patterned after Nazi law. Dor put his hand over Franz's. Will you still try to avenge Stephen Tischler's death? I must. How can we allow this? Franz made a fist under Dor's hand. I only wish I could leave the New World Order now. Dor squeezed Franz's fist. Do what you must. Don't worry about Brianna and I. A new admiration for this rabbi came over Franz, but he feared for him too. He had to find a safe way for Dor and Brianna to marry. Are you brave enough for her? When I go to her, all our lives will be in danger. So let's start being brave now. I encourage you to leave the New World Order. A message flashed on the computer screen. Death to you all if Dor and Brianna marry. Dor sat and shivered in his chair. Franz stood speechless. Okay, I'm going to fast forward to another section. This is from page 104, part 2 of 2. The order gave them a canvas bag to place the body in. And they put it in the trunk. Better to leave him in the trunk so they couldn't see him, to remember him as he was before they'd gotten him. The desert blurred by. I'm going to come in a little bit closer so you can see my face as I read this. The desert blurred by, an unusually hot October day. The heat glared on her windshield, and it seemed something smelled from the trunk. White sheets over corpses flashed through her mind. Desert stretched for miles, a long vista with dry, dusky mountains. The highway stretched into eternity. Dead, dry grasses, yucca and agave kicked up dust. No clouds in the sky, nothing but blaring sun. Dust inched into her skin. Danielle gazed into an ocean of grief. Mountains closed in. Brianna felt panicky. Did she still wear his ring? Sapphires and diamonds twinkled, tormented her. She reached Houston, numb, prepared for anything. Live oaks cascaded her and mocked. Door's eyes had soothed her. His mouth had brushed her. Would he be a haven? If not, she'd be the parched grass. She drove up the curved driveway with the potted plants. When she pressed the doorbell, her hand shook. The door opened. His jaw dropped. Oh, my God. She flung herself on him and felt his lips on her hair. My darling Brianna. Isaac's dead. He backed off and turned away. She couldn't suppress tears. Danielle laid a hand on Door's shoulder. Marry her. Duty done, Danielle disappeared down the hall. He seemed in another world and sat on a bar stool. His eyes glazed ahead. Brianna wanted to claw her way into him, wrench fear and strangle it. He lost himself into his own world. She didn't exist. Should she just sit here? He needed her. Why wouldn't he come? Better to leave him alone. It was she that tormented him. In the corner sat the bag. She smelled nothing. Her mind played tricks on her. A crimson sun waned below the horizon. She somehow made it to her home, which she hadn't sold. Tomorrow there would be a funeral. In the dark, she tossed on her bed. Sleep fled. Around 3 a.m, she finally fell asleep. When she awakened the next morning, the sun's rays blared through her window. The funeral was at 10 because the body had been dead long enough. It needed a proper burial. She prepared a basket of food for Dor and his family. In keeping with Jewish tradition, the basket was simple, but the food inside came from her heart. Homemade bread made from whole grains, a vegetable salad with her own herb vinegar dressing, matzo crackers. The bread was still fresh. Dor struggled with depression and needed all the energy he could get. If he'd eat these foods, they may help his flagging spirits, and she hoped she could prevent him from canceling their engagement. As she drove the short distance to Dor's, her heart leaped to her throat. He didn't talk to her. This was bad. She had to get him to open up and pour out his feelings. If not, he'd bottle them until they poisoned him. The bitterness would fester and fester until he died of grief. When he opened the door, she presented the basket to him. What's this? He smiled, took her basket, opened it, and sniffled. Brianna, did you make this bread yourself? He felt his arms around her. He brought her head to his shoulder. It relieved her that he could still feel. Before we left for the Reformation Center, I got in the mood to bake. Let me know if you need anything. I'm going to kind of jump forward a little bit. Dor conducted the funeral. Several times his tears wouldn't stop. She remembered the large candle that burned at his home. Its flame was his heart. She saw it in his eyes, the shimmering flame, the desire to rescue the oppressed. He wanted to comfort the sufferers, make the world a better place. But he could only watch it all, the horrors of suffering that never ended, the dark tunnel with no light at the end. His eyes were restless. She knew he wouldn't be satisfied until he did something. And that's my book. Enjoy it.